Art Carney and Ellen Burstyn star in the bittersweet story of an old man and his feline friend, Harry and Tonto.
Excuse me. Where do you turn on the cable dial to find a movie to match your mood? Introducing Encore's new multiplex. An idea so obvious it's brilliant. Encore multiplex theme channels are devoted entirely to the kind of movies you want to watch.
With a variety of new channels, each with a different theme.
I see I've got your attention. Call your cable company right now and tell them you're in the mood for Encore multiplex. What you want for less. What are you waiting for?
Hi everyone, Perry Jones here with news on one of Encore's shining stars for August. Director Alan Rudolph says, for the most part, they became famous simply for having lunch together. The story picks up in 1919 at the famed Round Table of New York's Algonquin Hotel. Writers, painters, theater critics, for 10 years they met every day to share their views on a rapidly changing world. One of the stars is Matthew Broderick. He plays journalist-turned-screenwriter Charles MacArthur, lover of Jennifer Jason Leigh's Dorothy Parker.
To be one of the very best, I think you'd want to find out.
Mrs. Parker in the Vicious Circle marks the first time Matthew Broderick's been allowed to play a romantic lead. In Encore's presentation of Lady Hawk, he's smitten with co-star Michelle Pfeiffer. But Rutger Hauer's the one who has a way with the damsel.
If you lay one hand on her, you will find it on the ground next to your head. Now, right on.
Easy, little man. You're frightening me.
Are you deaf? Right on.
Soon to be seen in Mrs. Parker and the Vicious Circle. Matthew Broderick in Encore's August premiere, Lady Hawk. Thanks for joining me, everyone. I'm Perry Jones, and I'll see you next time.
Mr. Garner, looking straight ahead, please.
Okay, I started, got my first recognition in Maverick many years ago. And it seems I got my latest recognition in Maverick.
For movie makers and moviegoers alike, it was one of the biggest, brightest nights of the summer. A tribute to actors James Garner, Gene Hackman, Jack Lemmon, and James Woods, honored for their contributions to American film during a star-studded backlot celebration in Hollywood.
What's fun about tonight is that it's along with Gene Hackman and with Jim and with Jimmy Wood. And these are guys that I admire and that are personally good friends of mine.
All these guys were my icons growing up. They were all my heroes. I've actually worked with all of them and taken second billing to all three of them.
Hosting this special night of stars for the benefit of local Los Angeles charities was Encore Media Corporation Chairman and CEO John J. C.
We are particularly delighted to honor 4 great movie stars. And these 4 movie stars epitomize Encore, providing countless hours of entertainment for our viewers.
In addition to all the tributes, the Hollywood party was the perfect place to officially launch a major expansion of Encore's home entertainment services. The new thematic multiplex, a package of 6 new premium movie channels, each one devoted to a different category or genre of movies from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Uncut and commercial-free, 24 hours a day. Cable and satellite subscribers, it's like having a video store at home that allows viewers to choose movies to match their moods.
It's revolutionary in the sense it's so simple that we can have every channel devoted to a specific theme, whether it's a love story, mystery, action, or true story, or Western, they can tune to a place on their cable dial to enjoy themselves.
I think to have a cable channel like this, it can give people an opportunity to focus in an area where they might not.
We're a nation of movie nuts. I think everybody's been maybe a latent movie nut waiting for the opportunity to dive in, and this is a perfect opportunity.
It is also affordable. For about $6 a month, you can have 7 channels to satisfy your viewing moods, and that's about the cost of maybe 2 video rentals for a whole month of entertainment.
Do you think someday we'll see like the James Woods channel, you know, all James all the time?
Sometimes I turn on cable at night and it looks like the James Woods channel. I sometimes can't believe I've made this many movies and I'm still this poor.
It was a night for honoring the accomplishments of the past and for unveiling the promise of the future. Encore's 6 new multiplex channels will include Wham! Special entertainment and educational programming exclusively for 8 to 16-year-olds. Combine all that with first-run major movies of the recently unveiled stars and a mix of all-time favorite films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s on the original Encore channel. And you've got something worth celebrating in a big way. New home entertainment channels that will put you in the fast lane of the information superhighway, out on the cutting edge ahead of everybody else.
The one and only Mr. Jack Lemmon.
The channels, when they're playing older movies, they tend to play better ones rather than lousy ones. And the public tends to remember the hits rather than the misses. Thank heaven.
From the Encore party in Hollywood, I'm Scott Patrick.
They burned down his home. Then they murdered his wife and children. Now he'll stop at absolutely nothing to get revenge.
Are you going to pull those pistols or whistle Dixie?
Clint Eastwood is the outlaw Josie Wales.
Soldiers were here looking for you about 2 hours ago. They say you killed your own men.
All this month on Encore. Great movies tell great stories. The Sand Pebbles, directed by Oscar winner Robert Wise, portrays military life in pre-revolutionary China. Filming this epic demanded the best of its crew. 3 young American stuntmen were hired to recreate the battle sequences, making history and mayhem both on and off the screen. Stunt coordinator Lauren James brought his 16mm camera along for the ride.
We were the first foreign company ever to film in Taiwan. And being an American company, the Taiwanese wanted to look the American because it was a big thing. So we had such crowds that they had to actually put up bamboo barricades.
It was just unbelievable when we went to work, and it's just mass humidity. We went, what is this? Look at this. You could hear it from over the hill, all this noise. And I went, whoa, this is going to be an experience. And it was.
It was probably one of the most fascinating, it was the most fascinating place I'd ever been in my entire life in those days. I'd only worked in Mexico and Canada as far as a foreign country. So it was a thrilling adventure for me, believe me. What a culture shock.
That was done in the New Territories, and that was out right near the Chinese border. And we strung these bamboo like a barrier across.
When we got out to do the actual battle, which was all hand-to-hand, and when you see the film, it's very intense and it looks very bloody.
We had a lot of the Chinese there that we trained. Glenn and I and Lauren would take them down into a gym that we had, and they were very skilled in the martial arts, and then we were turning them around to work in the movies for all the attack stuff.
We taught them how to do attack. We had a little fighting thing with them. Ronnie would always challenge the best sword fighter and beat him with a little foil, and they had these big broadswords, so it was interesting. And you do alternating lunge, parry, side block, block, and you just go through the basic little steps.
The Chinese loved it and they learned a lot, but the actors, and I had to do it with the real actors, and they all just got in and they learned and they worked and they took falls and they got bruises, but they never quit. And I mean, it was a great crew. Glenn and I had an interesting experience that we had the hole in the ship, and it was dark and dirty and so forth down there, and we wanted to show him you could fall in these pads. So he and I fell down in to show him and climbed down in there.
And Lauren jumps in, goes right through the same hole I am. He's landing on top of me. And he starts screaming. And I look up because I'm really pumped and nothing's but we're covered. I'm in maybe 6 to 8 inches of cockroaches. And they're all over every bit of me. And I come flying out. And Lauren was starting out first. He never made it.
We practically lived on that ship. And we were on it really from sun up to sundown practically every day. And I mean, it was home. We had little niches and things where we could go and take a nap or get out of the sun, which was relentless. It was really exciting. We had a great time there.
When I brought out the camera, it turned these guys on. I mean, their hams on and off the camera. And in fact, a lot of the stuff they do when they're rehearsing in front of camera, they can't shoot. And sometimes if they come up with something funny, they'll do it in the scene. But the stunt guys entertained the entire cast and crew all the time, coming up with this or trying that. And so we were always doing stuff like that all day long.
There was the attack where he went into town and everybody else made it back to the boat and Mako wasn't there. The sequence was running through all of these people. Now these people were a mass number of people, maybe 500, 600, that had no film experience. They were told to catch him and kill him. And that was a very emotional scene. It was well done, and it was, I mean, they were really after it. I told him, when you start running, don't let them catch you. I mean, they started yanking his arms out of the socket, and we had to run and stop him a couple of times. Anyway, when they got him up in the tree and they started slashing at him, they started whacking and hitting him. And it was a knife that had a squeezable handle with little holes in it that would squeeze the blood. And he was supposed to do it. Well, he'd go whack and hit him and squeeze it. And he would make big blood marks, and he was all cut up and marked up and everything. And Mako never complained a bit.
Steve was up for the Oscar for this, and we were all disappointed he didn't get it. And he did have an affinity for it, and the reason that he was so close to this character, that he was a rebel, he was a loner, which Steve was. But the main thing was, this guy loved an engine like a lot of men love a woman. He fell in love with this big engine in this old ship, which was an exact duplicate of what they had in those days.
It was a beautiful movie. It was well shot. And by the time we got down to the end of it, we knew what we had. If it was cut together and put together right, it was going to be a good film.
Well, I was just proud to be part of it and part of a show like that, and here we are 30 years later talking about it. And so it must interest a lot of people. And really proud to be on the big shows that I've been on. It's part of motion picture history, and you're sort of there forever.
Encore presents the Woodstock 25th Anniversary Dictionary, an Aquarian exposition, the original title of Woodstock. Michael Lang, who brought the show together, thought the phrase would bring young people and music together, and that nature, art, counterculture, music, and freedom, all in one short sentence. The phrase united people in the age of Aquarius and brought them to Woodstock, putting the phrase an Aquarian exposition into Encore's 25th Anniversary Woodstock Dictionary.
With the success of the original Man of Steel movie behind them, screenwriter David Newman and his wife Leslie set out to write the sequel, Superman 2.
The thing about that movie that means a lot to us is that we got to do the love story. I've always been fascinated by the fact that, as other people have said, that this is a triangle involving two characters. And I've always been fascinated by the schizoid nature of Superman Clark Kent, because this is one guy, and he has two halves, and those two halves don't like each other a whole lot. And we wanted to get into that, and we wanted to resolve that. And a lot of the movie, about a half of the movie, or a third of it or something, is about is about Superman and Lois. and how he finally falls in love as a human emotion. People forget that he's not human. He's an alien from another planet, and he has to not only give up, he has to give up his powers, which is very heavy mythological stuff. This goes back to the gods. You know, this is a Mount Olympus. This is Zeus coming down to Earth and falling in love with a mortal. And there's a lot of myths that we pulled on for this. And there's a great love story. I think Christopher and Margot are just wonderful in it.
Having already co-written the Broadway musical, It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman with partner Bob Benton, it was no surprise that Newman jumped at the offer to write the film version of the original Superman.
When we were first asked to do this, some of our more cynical friends said, "What do you want to do that for? It's like a Saturday morning cartoon kids thing." People who thought it was a comic, who thought it was beneath them or me, well-meaning friends. And I said, you know, if we were in Great Britain instead of America, and I told you that I was doing a movie about King Arthur and the Round Table, you wouldn't say that, because you'd think, well, that's our greatest mythological character. And I said, as far as I'm concerned, and I've given it a lot of thought, Superman is our greatest mythological character. He's the great American myth.
And finding an actor to play that character was the next step.
The part was offered to a lot of famous actors who turned it down. Warren Beatty was offered a lot of money to do it. He said to me, I just thought, he said it was really tempting, and I spent a whole night thinking about it, and then I thought, I can't wear those leotards. People will laugh, you know, and they could, you know, and we're writing. And at the time, we just wrote a kind of an attitude, you know, and we just assumed they'd find something. And we had no idea who was going to play this role. And then Christopher was discovered. He had been an actor. He had been a New York stage actor, and he'd been on a soap, and he'd done some theater work. And so a lot of people knew Chris, but suddenly this guy walks in the door, and he looks like Superman. He did a lot of working out. He built himself up, you know. But he stepped off the comic book page for us.
General, would you care to step outside?
Superman.
There's a big sequence in Niagara Falls where Clark and Lois go there, and suddenly a little boy who's one of the tourists falls off the ledge, and Clark Kent has to quickly go and change and become Superman and dive down and save this kid. And the way they did that was in the most commonplace way, which is he was hooked up by wires to a crane. And he, on that set on Niagara Falls, I remember this vividly, there were